Tickets at nyfield.org.
Next time on the New Yorker Radio Hour, Congressman Ro Khanna on tech moguls taking over politics.
These people, some of them think they're Nietzsche's Superman, right? And the little people like Ro Khanna in Congress are stopping them. This is an ideology that rejects the role of the state.
Ro Khanna on the Trump-Musk relationship next time on the New Yorker Radio Hour. Saturday mornings at 10 on 93.9 FM or on the WNYC app.
It's 6:51 and Marketplace Morning Report is next. And later on Morning Edition, after former President Jimmy Carter was voted out of office in 1980, he returned to his small hometown of Plains, Georgia, where he received a hero's welcome.
It was pouring down rain here, and the streets were just thronged with people, just like they were the night that he won.
Carter's hometown and its impact on his remarkable life in about 15 minutes right here on WNYC. 24 out there now in clear skies, and it feels like it's in the single digits. Sunny and 32. Again, it'll feel like the single digits today because the winds will really be gusting up to 50 miles an hour. Tonight, clear, cold again, and feels like 15 degrees, blustery as well. It's 6:52.
When economic malaise went unsaid.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by The Economist, devoted to providing independent journalism that makes sense of the news shaping the world. More at economist.com or with The Economist app, newsletters, and podcasts.
I'm David Brancaccio. It is a national day to remember Jimmy Carter, the 39th president. Let's take a look at a speech Carter made as president that may have left the most indelible mark. It was mid-July 1979, and inflation was running high in the midst of the second oil crisis. That's when Carter leveled with the American people about what he called a crisis of confidence.
Too many of us now tend to worship self-indulgence and consumption. Human identity is no longer defined by what one does, but by what one owns.
It came to be known as the malaise speech, but let's be careful with that word. Let's bring in Kevin Mattson, a professor of history at Ohio University, who wrote a book about this. Professor, welcome.
Great to be here with you.
I was a teen. I remember the summer night at a little lake, black and white TV, watching the live speech, Jimmy Carter. I remembered he used the word malaise to describe the vibe, but he didn't.
No, he didn't. You can do a quick search through the speech and you'll find that malaise does not turn up anywhere within the speech itself. His opponents are the ones who say, this guy's down on the American people.
How spin becomes, in a sense, reality. Are you on the side of other experts who think this is one of the most unusual speeches of any president in our history?
I remember assigning the speech. It was during the U.S. growing involvement in Iraq and the presidency of George W. Bush. And the students said to me, I wish we had a president who talked like this to us. I like what he's saying. I like how he's framing things out. I like how he's talking about our own political responsibility in confronting the crisis. And I thought to myself, wow, that's not usually how people see it or read it. Many historians slough it off as just basically a stupid move.
Well, here's another clip.
The symptoms of this crisis of the American spirit are all around us. For the first time in the history of our country, a majority of our people believe that the next 5 years will be worse than the past 5 years.
With a presidential election coming up, that's talking turkey, that's being direct. I will say, though, that it surprised me to read that in the immediate aftermath, the days that followed the speech, he got a bump upward in presidential approval. For a little while, the speech worked.
That's absolutely right. It was about 10% bump up, and Carter did not see too many of those bump ups during his presidency. So it's quite significant. I've actually gone to the Carter Library and looked through correspondence of people writing to the president soon after the speech is given. It's a massive amount of mail full of people saying, I'm going to ride my moped instead of my car to work. I'm going to turn down the thermostat. There's a real sense that I think he kind of reaches this sort of kind of vision of civic participation that is citizens' roles in solving problems that he takes with him from that point onwards.
Right, but consumerism and thinking about oneself and not working together is part of the fabric of this country. And the idea that a speech would suddenly enlighten swaths of the population so that they turn over a new leaf, I mean, that's asking a lot.
Yeah, it is. I think that Jimmy Carter asked a lot from people, and that's what made him unique. Ronald Reagan was famous for saying, we don't need any sacrifice. We can live the lives we want to live and not worry about, the ramifications. That's what I think made Jimmy Carter such an exceptional political figure.
Kevin Mattson is a history professor at Ohio University. His book from some years ago is on President Carter's speech. It's called What the Heck Are You Up to, Mr. President? Jimmy Carter, America's Malaise, and the Speech That Should Have Changed the Country. Professor Mattson, thank you.
Thank you.
In honor of President Carter, many federal offices are closed today. The stock markets are closed. The bond market closes early. There's also news today that a strike by dock workers has likely been averted that would have affected East and Gulf Coast ports. Shippers and the union reached a 6-year tentative deal that includes language on the pace of automation, a package both sides are describing as win-win. And we take damage figures with a grain of salt, with fires still uncontained in Southern California. But AccuWeather's calculation puts the damage at about $50 billion versus nearly $200 billion for Hurricane Katrina, for example. A separate J.P. Morgan early take calls the predicted industry losses high but manageable. For people, losses will be incalculable.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Progressive Insurance. The Name Your Price tool provides a range of coverage options. Progressive.com. Price and coverage match limited by state law. And by Clear Channel Outdoor, an out-of-home billboard company that offers data-driven advertising solutions for businesses big and small. Billboardsforbusiness.com.
A remerger of sorts. After 20 years apart, the Service Employees International Union is going back into the collection of unions known as the AFL-CIO, which will then represent nearly 15 million workers. Marketplace's Samantha Fields is here with details. Samantha?
Hi, David. The Service Employees Union represents about 2 million people who work in healthcare and food services and as janitors. They're mostly low-wage workers, and many are immigrants. The AFL-CIO is a group of 60 different unions representing more than 12.5 million workers. They include teachers, government employees, actors, auto workers. It is a very wide range. And as you mentioned, David, the Service Employees Union used to be affiliated with the AFL-CIO for years, but left in 2005, along with the Teamsters, who have not come back. And since then, organized labor has continued to lose power.
All right, so why the combination at this moment?
So there's a lot of talk about how this is happening less than 2 weeks before Donald Trump is inaugurated as president for his second term. The leaders of both unions have been very careful to say they are not doing this now because of the incoming Trump administration. They've apparently been talking about the possibility for a couple of years. But at the same time, AFL-CIO President Liz Shuler did say, and I quote, "We are amassing our forces, building our strength and our power before the inauguration." So it seems pretty clear that they're betting they'll have more power to protect and fight for workers as a bigger organization under Trump, who has not always exactly been supportive of unions and pro-labor policies.
Marketplace's Samantha Fields, thank you very much. And a warning for Americans using online pharmacies. It's from the U.S. Trade Representative's Office. In a report, it notes that 96% of the 35,000 online pharmacies around the world operate without a license and can sell drugs that can be dangerous. It's Marketplace Morning Report from APM, American Public Media.